history department. And why our institute was established, it was because in the end of 1960s, turning to the 70s, lots of people moved to Sweden and we started to diminish population. There was really diminishing in absolute numbers. And then there was the thought that we need this kind of research institute, documentation institute, that we have to research the phenomena, we have to get people to Finland, and later on we started to get return migrants from Sweden. So our topics here at the Institute, we research immigration, emigration, country internal migration and regional development and ethnic issues, and very many kinds of topics underneath those. We have 3 offices. This is the earlier picture where we were at these Turku premises, but we have also in Seinäjoki our own unit. Today actually there was 2.5 hours seminar before this. I was attending over there, and we have also in Vaasa our unit, we call it Centret, and it is specialized on Finnish-Swedish migrations, these population migrations, because it is the second official language, as you know, Swedish in our country, and we are researching over here in Vaasa, in Centret, those people especially. And about our institute further on, there are around 30 organizations behind us, almost all universities, many ministries, non-governmental organizations, cities like Turku, which is giving us always the premises, all of these over 45 years. And our areas of operation is not only Finland, but Finnish migrants abroad. And we have international projects. It is not necessary to have the Finnish migrants. And we have staff, we have these 9 permanent employers and employees, and then we have these researchers, senior researchers in our research projects, and we have internships of students from the universities. Actually, we are getting for this springtime 4 students. Next week we get one from Charles University from Czech Republic. And we get the finance from the Ministry of Education and Culture, and lots of funding comes outside sources. We all the time apply different kind of for the different kind of projects funding, and of course we get from city of Turku these premises. It is nice how I could say help for us. And then we have some fundraising and self-financing. And about the activities, we have these research and information services. We have very huge archives at our institute. Long time we have collected materials over here. We have immigrant letters from the earlier times. We have music, this Finnish immigrants' music. We have library, specialized library for all of to use. We have publication series. You can find many of those still up to this moment, open access. It is the policy, I could say, that we want to get in Finland these scientific publications open access. And we have the journal. If you go to journal.fi, you can find there siirtolaisuus migration. It is 4 times a year periodical journal, and it has been from the beginning 1974. Then we arrange events, we have exhibitions, we have of course our own networks, immigrant register. Maybe some of you know if you have been searching the routes, checking our passport records or passenger records. We have funds and grants. Actually, next week or week after that, we decide who are the lucky ones to get grants for this year. And we have John Morton Award. And here is the contact information. If you check, you have Migration Insitute.fi. You can find more information. We have, of course, Facebook and we have Twitter. But what about this presentation today? I'm talking about this immigration flows and immigrants in Finland, that you get some kind of idea what's happening here in this country, something about labor market participation of immigrants and challenges, experiences, what are they faced, and future prospects. And this is especially about the future population development, because there are really different kinds of times coming on, and we absolutely need more and more supply for the labor outside. So this might be familiar type of, I don't know, have you seen ever this picture, but this phenomenon is familiar. Immigration to America. In the long run, we had this huge migration wave. If we think about our countries, these migration huge waves. And then we have this Karelian evacuees. We have published several books about these issues recently and organized seminars. Then this Swedish emigration from Finland and back to Finland. And then what has happened afterwards. And I go more details later on. But I wanted to show this, that Finnish people are moving also abroad, as there might be many of those now listening to this presentation who have moved from Finland. And we have a lot of people, Finnish background people in the United States and especially in Sweden and all around Europe and of course in Canada and faraway countries, but not so big amounts. And we have second generation, and in US you can find sixth generation immigrants and so on. But for example, this, I have to try to get these pictures. Now this is better. I can see the full picture now for myself. So this is the immigration flows of Finnish citizens to Finland in 2000s and the top 10 countries. And they are thus return migrants to Finland. And we see that the neighboring country, Sweden, has been the place from where we have got population, those who have moved back. And from English-speaking countries, United Kingdom, United States, in different years. And then, of course, in Spain, we have a lot of Finnish background people. And during the European Union, when we entered the 1st of January 1995, then people started to move also to other EU countries, and there are those returners from Spain, Germany, Denmark, and so on. And you see that in different time periods, these top 10 countries actually create and accomplish quite big amount of whole migration stream, 70% around, only 10 top 10 countries, and 30 rest of the world. And there are different times when, for example, in 2000, we got a lot of returners from Norway because Finnish people were moving, quite many who were nurses and medical doctors. They went to Norway, to those better, looking for better salaries. They were paying maybe double salary compared to Finland, although the life expenses are there quite expensive. But later on, it was some kind of like people went for 1 year or 2 years and returned back to Finland. But then we have these immigration flows of foreign background persons born abroad. And you can see that we get from the neighboring country, like Sweden was for those Finnish citizens, the neighboring country Estonia is for us the #1. But then we had quite many Iraqi population coming here during the migration crisis, and then there are these family reunifications and so on, Russian neighbor country, but faraway countries, India, China, Vietnam. So these are really numbers for 1 year, and if you look now, these top 10 countries, around half of those who are coming as foreign background people, they are from 10 different countries, and the rest 50% are from other parts of this world. So it is a variety of new people coming over here, and when we think about this integration of immigrants, it is really like not homogeneous population, but really heterogeneous. What are the reasons behind that? Although this is from 2014, it was a big research going on in this UTH survey. And I checked for 2019, the number is nowadays also this amount for family reasons, works, refugee. We talk about here in Finland a lot of refugees and those problematics over there, but its share is very small. It is only around 1/10. And we get these people who are coming to study here, international students and so on. But the family reasons are playing very big role, and also these bars are what we would like to have higher level. These are now exactly for 2014. And when we look around this, what is the long time period, this development for population by origin and background, and it means background country, born abroad or born Finland. So first generation immigrants, the number is around 350,000. Nowadays it is a little bit more. I have the figures later on. But you can see that how Finland has been getting more and more immigrant background people to its population. And the second generation population, it is not so high, but it is getting, of course, all the time bigger when we get more people over here to the stock. This is the immigrant stock, all those people who are living in Finland. And here are the numbers for 2019. These are the latest numbers from statistics of Finland, what I was checking. And we can use different indicators for foreign citizens. The number is 250,000, and it is around 5% of total population. But when we look at these who were born abroad, it is then over 400,000 people. And those largest groups of those persons born abroad are from the neighbor countries, from Russia and former Soviet Union, over 70,000 population, Estonia, close to 50,000, Sweden, over 30,000 population. Then we start to have these big amount of refugee background people, Iraq, Somalia, China, of course, on different type of, and Thailand. And as I mentioned earlier, we got these asylum seekers 2015, and mostly they were really from Iraq and Afghanistan, not so many from Syria. And what about when we see and look at these immigrants and their demographics and think about labor markets? The age range is quite good. These bars are for immigrants, and this blue over here, this background blue, it is for the Finnish population, and it's a population age structure. So our own population is quite old in that sense compared to these immigrant background people. And here are some examples of certain groups, just an example. And these people from 20 to 44, their share is much higher in their population compared to the Finnish population. And then we have this young population coming from Somalia. They have big families. There are quite many children. And then, for example, this is Sweden, this yellow. And very many Finnish persons who moved to Sweden, they have taken the citizenship of Sweden. And then they return back to Finland during the retirement time. That's why it is quite high number over there. And when we look at this gender structure, and this is for males and background country. So when we take the concept, for example, we have been researching multicultural marriages, and there are very many Western men who are married with Finnish ladies, and for example, from Britain or Turkey also, and these countries, Morocco, and so on. But then we start to have where we have less than 50% of males, and then there is the excess of women, because this part is women then, of course, for 100 coming over here. So Finnish men have spouses very often from Thailand, Philippines, Russia, and so on. So there is a different kind of gender structure, different kind of age structure for different population groups, and what kind of languages. And if you think about these like integration programs and all those that we help immigrant background people here, we have a lot of Russian who have the mother tongue Russian or Estonian, Arabic, English, Somali, and so on. So there is a wide variety of people. One thing what I want to show you too, when we think about regional development, and later on you'll see some other slides about Finland. So this the population is very much concentrating to southern part of Finland. Turku is over here and Helsinki over here. And Helsinki alone, this is from one research, and we were calculating this kind of cumulative map in 2005, but the case is still the same. And for the total population also exactly the similar, but not exactly so much for Helsinki. But immigrant background people, 1/4 of them are living in Helsinki area. And then when we start to calculate the next 25%, it is very small share of the land. And then you take the next 25. So this small area is 75% for immigrants where they are living. And the rest of the country, it is only 25%. And it is unbalanced where the people are moving, because here is the urbanization process going on and has been a long time. What about this labor market participation of immigrants? I'm using here something from, this is a recent book, this Culture of Migration, Handbook of Culture of Migration. It came out by Elkar Edward Publishing. I have an article there together with Nafisa Yesemin from Lapland University about the immigrants in the labor markets. I was also editing this kind of book. It is free access at our institute website, and also this is free access, but this is not because this is other publisher. And I have put here these linkages. If you want to have this presentation, I could make it and send it to Jana later on, if there is interest to have this presentation later on and access to these sources. But in the labor markets, it is the case, like in many other countries, that these immigrant background people, foreigners, they have higher unemployment rate compared to the total population. This is first the look for the past. Here we had a depression years in Finland, and these percentages were very high for both groups, but extremely high for immigrant background people. And there is the situation that nowadays also immigrants have 3 times higher unemployment rate in general. But we go to the details. And this is the case when what I was telling you, that these each groups are so different. And this is a primary activity. And if you look, for example, now this Estonia, from where we get lots of people, and this is 100, what are Estonians background people in Finland? This is the total number in 2018, what was the recent statistics to get for this. And over half of them were employed, very few unemployed, and this percentage over there. But if you think about now these labor markets, you can see that we have very few employed in Syrians, very few employed in Somalis or Iraqis, but better employed Great Britain background people, and so on. Those who are from Western countries, they are doing fine. This is the Finnish citizens, how we are, what is our share in each groups. And unemployed share, it is very low because this is a primary activity. These percentages are not now from the labor markets, because usually you see employment rate, it is from the labor force, but this is the primary activity, total population. And it is very low for Finnish citizens, but when you start to look these numbers, they are much higher for different groups like these, especially for refugee background people. We have also from Syria, they have a lot of children in the population, students. We see, for example, from Afghanistan, there are a lot of students, or from Vietnam, and pensioners, very rare, but the Swedish citizens, as was so seen earlier, 1/4 of them, and others outside labor force. This is one group of people for which for surely Finnish society would like to get them to the active position to the labor markets, because they are not pensioners, they are just outside labor force, but there are many people who are housewives. And highest employment rates, these are now from the labor force. This is a different indicator. And for example, from Nepal, almost all are employed. We have a lot of Nepalese restaurants, and these numbers are very high, these employment rates. We get a lot of labor immigrants. They already have the job when they come over here. Then they just come and enter to the job. And these are the absolute numbers. In absolute numbers, which background people we have the highest share in the labor markets, Estonia, Russia, and so on. And these unemployment rates, they are really high, you see, from the labor force now calculated. Over 70% of them are unemployed. Iraqi, Somali, Afghanistan, a little bit less, and so on. So it varies a lot. And what about these employment sectors? This is something, because this is for Finnish origin men and for foreign origin men, and the numbers behind these shares, and the profession groups, and latest information what can be get from the Statistics Finland. So you can see there are very much similar type of structures, for example, crafts and related trade workers, or what I could say, this is also quite close to each other, these professionals, but there is much higher share of those foreign background people who are in elementary jobs. And this is one group of people that there are also those incoming jobs that people don't know Finnish language, and then they enter to the job, maybe not suitable for their education, but they want to learn the language. This is sometimes a case. And this is for the Finnish origin women and foreign origin women, and the numbers behind. So you can see there are in all segments, but this is very high, these elementary occupations for ladies. But service and sales workers, nearly the same. But we have also women in professionals, in associate technicians, associate professionals. So we get many type of people to our labor markets, and these are employed people. These are in the jobs in that time. And if we compare German origin workers and Somali origin workers who are employed, and in 2016, Germans are very much professionals, and these Somali background people are working in service sales workers, but very high share compared to the Germans, elementary occupations. So we have to remember that people have different educational background. If you come as a refugee, you have been a forced migrant, not like a target migrant who is willing to come to work in Finland and getting maybe career advancement when coming over here in a job and so on. There are different stories behind this. And this is for the Estonian citizens. And here is the educational background, and we have these professionals, we have higher educated, but we have higher educated also, some of them are in elementary occupations. And it means that they are higher educated, but working maybe as in a cleaning sector or whatever. But what we can say from research, and this is from Maria's and mine research, just only showing this phenomenon, which is fact today. The higher the education, the better you are in the labor markets. The higher are the shares for employed. And unemployment is very low. And students, this student means here for example, doctoral women, that they have to study maybe some extra, that they can get the same level for the certificates what is required in Finland. And here are the top 15 detailed occupational groups for foreign origin men. What are the 15 biggest groups? This is more detailed now compared to just what we saw just a moment ago. So building and related trades workers, excluding electricians, there are over 10,000, over 12,000 people working in that profession group. And personal service workers and drivers or cleaners and helpers, so many men, but also as professionals in many fields, professional work. So, but this top 15 share is like 2/4 of all the professions. What about the ladies? There is the cleaners and helpers, number one, over almost 12,000 person working in that profession. But personal care workers, personal service workers, and so on. Teaching professional it is something like ethnic competence, that you have automatically your specific language talent when you come to Finland, and you can use it as a translator or giving the lectures or whatever. And these different kind of professionals and so on. And this share is almost 80%, these top 15. What is thinking about the future labor markets, and what we discussed, that we need a lot of people to healthcare sector. And if you think about, for example, this what I had in another book, what was there earlier shown on the cover. So this share is not growing fast, but you can see, for example, cleaners and helpers, their share is growing all the time, and it is really the incoming job. But there are also those refugee background people who don't have the certificate, maybe not educational background always, but there are also those who are highly educated. So it is really like labor markets, we could say, when we were researching, Maria and me, about the future labor markets too, that we need for all sectors actually immigrants, because these people are retiring here in Finland, this baby boom generation. So it is really, but we come later to that issue. The shares are still very small for all employed immigrants compared to all employed persons in Finland. Around 7% of our labor force are, or employed persons are then foreign origins, and for males a little bit higher compared to the females. And entrepreneurs, this is one way to get employed. And for some segments, for example, for Turkish entrepreneurs share, it is very high. It is almost 1/3 of all employed Turks are entrepreneurs. For Finnish, it is only, for Finnish citizens, it is 1/10% of employed Finns, and for Somalis, very small, less than 2%, around 2%. What are these experiences? I go these quite fast because I see the time is running, but I show you, and I mentioned something from these slides. These language challenges, it is the number one, that it is very important to learn these Finnish employers, they would like to have this talent to speak either Finnish or Swedish language. And it is one key factor for successfully entering to the labor markets. But of course, there are companies where you can use English or some other language. It is possible. But these employers, they see that it is some kind of sign of reliability when you have the proficiency in Finnish or Swedish. And then there exists also this kind of indirect discrimination when they ask and demand too extensive language competencies. Sometimes somebody has been saying that, nearly some employer has been saying that person has to understand full Finnish language for cleaning job. So there are different kinds of stories of that too in the labor markets. And some immigrants themselves, they think that if they would have the better language talent, they would like to stay here in Finland. And here are some quotas for you, like for example, for many professionals, imperfect Finnish language skills are a big obstacle to manage. This is accurate among people from any country, says man from Great Britain, from Maria's and my research. Or Finnish language is still an obstacle, woman from USA. Or this is a Finnish person in Australia. We have been immigrants in Australia for 2-3-year periods. It's time to return to our roots, where we have the advantage of being on home ground and don't need to prove that we belong. So feeling that they are part of, they carry their roots when they live in another country and can come back over here. But this finding a job, it is a really a problem for those people who are not labor immigrants or for example, to refugee background people. If they don't have the certificates and how they show the talent, what they have. But there are also good practices for that, but I don't have time to tell about those. But we have the primary sector, where are the steady employment, and we have also this secondary sector, where the jobs are uncertain and require little training. And it has been said that immigrants may be sorted into secondary labor markets because of prejudice arising from socio-economic distance, which is increased by differences in language, ethnic or racial origins, religion, education, and socio-cultural factors. And I have put there Spence signaling theory, and it is like there can be, employer can have a signal when the person sees somebody entering for the interview and having some kind of idea about the ethnic background person, that person is that kind of, although the person never has said any word yet. So that is some kind of, in negative terms, it can be an ethnic background, age, or whatever for signaling theory. And they can lack also, these immigrants, well-functioning recruitment networks, but when the social capital of these networks improve, their social status will likely improve and they can get better jobs. And of course, there is then these transitional labor markets that it is not always that you enter to the job and then you are forever in that. But you can face unemployment at once and then you come back to work, or then you go to further education to getting back to the work and so on. And these processes can be repetitive. And we had this GATE project. It was a Nordforce project, joint Nordic research project. And we saw also there that it is, and there were these refugee background youth, that these paths in the labor markets, they are not linear. There are different kind of phases. And there are these situations that people maybe take short-time or part-time work, and but it is important that these don't lead to incentive traps, that they can continue to that dream job what they have or for which they have got an education. and they study maybe Finnish or Swedish language all the time. There can be underemployment and brain waste or underutilization of the skill, which is also an occupational mismatch. And this involuntary part-time work, it has become more common in Finland, and there can be jobs in low-wage sector or even zero. Before Corona, there was this, or COVID-19, there were these 0-hour contracts. Now it is not good situation in the labor markets because of the pandemic, and there can be the risk of poverty. But there are these nice stories how this, for example, this Leila has found a work from TE office, and she was very successfully getting through that. There can be different mechanisms from which you can get a job. But after getting a job as a special needs assistant, I started to get a lot of work also as a substitute teacher. And she is saying that without have had the phone call from the TE office, I may still be lying on a sofa. Or this person, this Finn in Sweden, if I got a job, I'd move right then. In any case, my plans are to move back to Finland within a few years. So people are willing to come, also Finnish background people, but they want to have the job. And one situation is also that some of them are married with a foreign background people, and then they are thinking, can the foreign background spouse get the job here in Finland? Then the person is immigrant and the other one is return migrants.
Elli, can you wrap up in 4 minutes, please?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I skip here a couple of slides because I knew I put here much more, and I'm very, very much willing to talk. But what I say here first, before going to this future situation, that these enterprises, however, they have good experiences in recruiting immigrants, and they say that these employees are diligent, they have high level of motivation, honesty, politeness, flexibility, commitment, and strong work ethics. And actually, they say that it is all the same what is the background of the person, because the talent of the person, it is the most important. We hire the best ones. This is the slogan, what they say. And it is really all the same, what is the person's background. And what are the future prospects of Finland? Why this is so serious problem for the labor markets? This is a long run forecast. You see the population pyramid. It has been earlier times a real pyramid in the 1950s, but nowadays it is getting more heavily elderly weighted structure. And for the faraway future after 50 years, it will be totally different. There are no young people here entering into the labor markets in our own population. And what has been the case earlier, we have the dependency ratio. We had children, but nowadays we are taking care of elderly population. And this is the case that those people who are in our own population, who are 20 to 24 years old and enter into the labor market, and they are this blue line, and this red line is for the 60 to 64 years old exiting from the labor markets. So there is a huge gap, and this is the case. And if we look at, for example, in the regional level of Finland, so there is the smaller the number, if you have 100, you have as much of people going out from the labor market 60 to 64 than coming in 20 to 24 years old people. But if you have bigger numbers, it means that you have more youngsters coming to the labor market. So the labor market structure is better, and it is for these city areas. But these rural areas and these northern Finland and eastern Finland, they have really problematics. And if we look at the best municipalities in Finland, Helsinki is doing fine. Its dependency ratio is only 44, but Kuhmoinen, which is the worst in Finland, in that year what I have been looking, it is 100. And where the foreign population are concentrating and moving in, what's the share in the municipalities' population? It is very low there where it is needed, because the medium age of the population is very high. Here is much better. But foreign background people are really moving to those places, what I was showing you in the Finnish map earlier, the concentration. So Finland's demography is changing, population is aging, labor shortage is believed to be a great problem in the near future. And these immigrants' economic integration and stay in Finland as employers, taxpayers, consumers, even as employers, are very important. And it is not only measured by in monetary terms, but there is the amount of knowledge, experience, and international contacts. It means cultural and social capital they possess are valuable asset to any country. And really finally, talent boost here in Turku. For example, this area has been studying this kind of talent boost. They have been searching through different mechanisms, these international talents over here. They had some kind of competition not long time ago, 2019, and they got 1,000 entries. People were interested in Finland, and they had only for six families, these kind of six winners: Singapore, India, Lithuania, Iran, Latvia, and Albania. But many applicants highlighted Finland's interest in business field, clean nature, well-functioning education, and the balance between work and the family life. And this is absolute final thing. It was published this month, this Ministry of Finance, Unlocking Finland's Economic Growth, Outlook, Priorities and Solutions. And when we look at the report, it is mostly in Finnish. It emphasizes expanding the supply of skilled workers by immigration. Thank you very much. And here is my own publication, can be found from ResearchGate. If you write my name over there, you can find those books what I was mentioning and so on. I have put there quite much stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elli. Yes, if anybody has questions, feel free to type them into the chat box, or you can also actually just unmute yourself. I don't think that there's too many of us here. If I may start off with a question that has been, that maybe others would be interested in as well. Are there certain fields where there is like a severe labor shortage? Like I remember, I think it was in the summer when I was in Finland, somewhere I read that Finland could like immediately fill 30,000 jobs in coding, for instance. Is that
true?
Correct.
It came to my mind right away. Yes, coding jobs. But you know what I was mentioning, that we need people to social services and health services. I heard quite recently that was it like in the municipality level where these hospitals are functioning, that there is going to the out from the labor markets, was it 1/3 of the employees? They are going to retire, maybe was it during this decade? So, and it has been discussed that we have to be prepared that we should get these people to them. For example, this group of it has been raised number one, however, of course those coders too, and but there is a problem also, like who we have in those labor markets nowadays, that they feel that it is not appreciated and the salaries are not high enough and so on, that there is not pull effect, that people select and they start to study that field. And also the case that those who are already nurses or in a social services, they want to change their job to another one. There is an outgoing stream from those positions. And this is a really problem. And if you think about also like that regional structure of Finland, that it depends from the municipality to municipality. Some municipalities in the eastern and northern Finland, they can have problems even to get the labor from the Finnish natives, because they really are searching for jobs, maybe from the bigger centers and so on, because mostly the jobs are located over there, the wider variety of jobs. And if the families are moving, then you have to have job for 2 persons, not only for one, the spouse also. So there is a need for labor. But what I mentioned earlier, that from all those economical branches, there have been outflow because of the retirement. And actually what we discuss in this country and what was raised already maybe in 2010s, early 2010s, it was saying that Finland needs labor from immigrants who are already here in Finland, because as you notice, there are lots of people outside of labor force, and we should get those unemployment rates low and get these people to activate. And then we need from the disabled people, and maybe some retired people are willing to return back to work, because people nowadays are living longer lives and are more healthy and so on. And maybe sometimes some people is entering to the retirement but feeling that, okay, I would like to do something, maybe part-time basis or something like that. So there are these flexible labor markets too.
It seems that it would be very difficult for people to enter. I mean, it seems like there would be a lot of work in the healthcare sector, for instance, taking care of older people, but those are exactly the kinds of jobs that require good language skills, because they require communication.
Yes, that's true.
And, you know, a lot of older people don't speak English, or they can speak a dialect, like talk about going to Karelia or, you know, somewhere. You know, dialects can be hard to understand even for native speakers.
That's true.
Let alone immigrants. And
one thing, for example, if I mention one peculiar thing from Sweden, because we have a lot of those Finnish people in Sweden, and when they get older, they lose the Finnish language talent, and it has been discussed who is taking care of them in Sweden in Finnish language, because it is, and also Finnish people in USA, when they get elderly, maybe they lose the talent when they get dementia or Alzheimer or whatever. They lose the talent to speak their own language, or this language, English language, and then they need these native language speakers in different places around the world for the elderly people too.
Okay, we have a couple of questions here in the chat box. How hard is it to start and run a home-based business, internet or not, in Finland, in terms of regulations and laws?
To start your own business, it is something what we discuss also, that it is one good way to start a business or start to be employed. I think it is not a barrier. Actually, it is. I had one slide, but I took it off. There is a forced entrepreneurship. It has been seen from the Black Africans. Ekaterina Vorobeva had a master thesis where I was a supervisor, and she had this topic about entrepreneurship and for Black Africans. And it is for everybody. It is one way to start to be employed, but it depends also that the person, from the society side, it is very fine. It is very accepted and very good way, and we support the idea, and we have the services for those, and we all the time develop, because it is one important way. But as you saw from the figures that not all are doing it, but the Turkish background people, they had that very high level. But that forced entrepreneurship is that when people doesn't get work from the regular labor markets, and they have to start to think how I can be self-employed, and then they are forced to start their own business. that at least this way I can be employed and getting startup funding and some initiatives from the municipality. There are services, specialized services. It is really like how I say. We say that it is a plus sign also, that one way to be employed and be in Finland as employed.
Okay, now we have 5 more questions here. Let's see how many we can get through here. As a young person who doesn't speak Finnish, how would you recommend looking for a job or improving one's recruitment network? I have Finnish heritage, by the way, she says.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. There are, as I said, there are these, we have a lot in this country, different kinds of projects, which target is to find immigrant background people who are willing to enter to the labor markets, and how to get them, for example, to write their CVs, to learn the language. We have the integration plans for everybody who are moving into Finland. And they get 3-year integration plan and the services in Finnish language, and through those they start to build their own networks and so on. It is one way to start to integrate to the society. But then these specialized projects, I could say that there are so many in all municipalities I could imagine. They have specialized projects which are willing to help these immigrant background people in searching the job, getting the better knowledge about the Finnish labor markets, Finnish labor, Finnish working life, and what is needed if you need to start a business, or how can you apply a job and so on. And of course that I was living personally in USA long time ago in Portland, Oregon. And I remember when I came over there 30 years ago, I went to the hobbies, and it was my way to practice my English language and get the friends. And through friends you get these networks, that you have to be open-minded. You have to just put because we talk about here two-way integration, that it is not only the society or municipalities are putting to you something, but the person has to be also willing to integrate and be motivated over that. So that is the case, and one possibility is just to be open-minded and go to different circles, and then you build your own networks. And sometimes it has been said that if you are only connected to your own background people, for example, if Iraqi background people are all the time together with Iraqi background people, they have very small knowledge about Finnish labor markets. They might know some employers, and then they go to certain working places to work, maybe incoming jobs. But there is this weak ties and strong ties, Granovetter's theory. Weak ties, strong ties are those persons you already know and you have the networks. But when you can have a good weak tie at once, like that woman who telephone called to TE office, it was a weak tie in a sense, that at once you meet a right person from your own circles, and then something starts to happen in your life in a positive way. There are many stories, for surely.
Thank you, Elli. Actually, Meelia gave a lot of good answers there. For someone who's a US citizen, you might want to try to look for a job through the State Department, specifically for a US citizen, in Finland. Let's see what else. I would just wanted to maybe throw in one quick question before we have to quit.
Yeah.
In terms of students coming to Finland.
Yes.
What are the requirements in terms of language skills if you want to study in Finland?
Yes. Most of these international degree students, they manage in English. Actually, we were researching in PATH project here in Turku area several years ago. These international degree students in the University of Turku and Applied University of Sciences here in Turku. And they use English language. There are the lessons in English, but then they get also, they have these different programs that they get education for Finnish language or Swedish language. Depends if you go to Åbo Academy, and then there is very much Swedish language. But when they enter to the labor markets, and we had a follow-up there, that the problem is still even for them. They have been here many years and maybe not have learned so well Finnish language. Some people learn, some people don't. It depends from the motivation. So, and also the time, you know, if the person has the time for it. And those who have the talent to speak Finnish or Swedish, they have had easier way to the labor markets. But some people really, they say, even really who are from the higher educational institutions ready to the labor markets, they say that they don't find job over here. They ask the talent for Finnish or Swedish. But there are these segmented labor markets where you can use English and live as an English-speaking person over here. I know those people too, who live here and they use English all their life because Finnish people understand English language too. It is not necessary in all ways. And in, for example, in university, if you are a research or teacher or whatever in those fields, you can manage in English, for example.
We have one invitation here. We warmly welcome young American women who can play soccer to join the Finnish soccer team. There you go.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I think we have to leave it there, although I think that we could, have many more questions. But thank you, Elli, so much for the time and all that information. I know that there's more information available online or through the consulate and embassy if you're interested in that.
Thank you so much.
Further. Yeah.
Very pleasant.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming, and I hope to see you at another event.
Thank you, Jana. Take good care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So much.